there in John chapter 4, it says this, the fields are white and they're ready for harvest. Friend, I want to share with you, Jesus said, I didn't come to condemn those. Those were condemned already. So what we see is here is this, is we've got to get a mindset today of where we're at. And this lady was alone. She had been set, she had been ostracized by society, and the reason why is this. And this is where the rubber really hits the road, because people had made this decision. She had no value and she had no worth. And things that have no value and no worth end up where? Where you put them. You ladies that got china cabinets, real nice china cabinets, if you have something of no value and no worth, where do you put it? In the china cabinet? Maybe you put it when you come in and they got these, what's those things called? They got the big mirror and they stand at the end of the hallway. What do they call it? Curio cabinet. Curio cabinet. Is that where you put them? Where do we put things with no value and no worth? Where do we put them?
In the trash.
There you go. In the trash. That's where they go. That's the thing. And you see what? Society had already made a decision. Society's decision was this. This lady belongs in the trash. This lady has already made enough mistakes. This lady has already become something that society says, throw her in the trash because she has no worth. But you know what Jesus said? Give me a glass and I'll fill it up for you. Give me a cup. You see, the thing that I like is this. Your trash, our world's trash today, is why Jesus came. But you see, when we make that statement this morning, our thought mind automatically goes this and said, Pastor, now you got to wait a minute. Jesus saved the trash, but he also saved me. Friend, I'm going to tell you something. Our righteousness is what? As his filthy rags in the sight of God. You got them filthy rags in that curio cabinet? You got those filthy rags? Get ready, I'm going to house you again. You got those filthy rags sitting in your china cabinet? Where's your filthy rags at? Anybody? In the trash. So you see what I'm saying this morning? So what happens today is simply this is, if we get the mindset that the world has today is, and we don't have the mind of Christ, what happens is this is, we say, you know what? It's no use, let's just throw it all in the trash. But you see, that's when mercy drops down. That's when God's amazing grace and God's amazing mercies reaches down and pulls up. But it says there that that's who she was. That's who she was. Go with me in John chapter 5. John chapter 5, we look at a woman that was considered an outcast. But friend, I want to tell you something this morning. One thing God has is God doesn't have trash cans. But we look here and it says simply this. In John chapter 5 and verse 1, after this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there in Jerusalem by the sheep gate, a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool, was stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped first in, after the stirring of the water, was made well of whatever disease he had. Now a certain man was who had been there, had this infirmity for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been in that condition a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I am coming, another steps down before me." And then Jesus said, "Rise up and take up your bed and walk." And immediately the man was made well, took up his bed, and walked. And that day was a Sabbath. We had opportunity over a situation a year or so ago to go to San Antonio, Texas. And in San Antonio, Texas, we got to see It was called the, Corey, what was the name of it called again there? That game they played in Armor? U.S. Army game. And in this game, what it was is the senior athletes from all around the country that were the pick of the crop were to perform that day on the field. And the one young man, his name was Terrell Pryor. Some of you that know sport at all know that Terrell Pryor now is the quarterback for the University of Ohio State. And when I was watching this young man down there, he's 6'6", 240. And he's one of those guys, if he was going to pick a team, you remember when we used to do that pick thing? He'd be the first one you'd pick, wouldn't you, Mike? You saw him standing there. You know, I might have been the second pick that day, Mike, but this old boy, I mean, he was there, you know, and when I look at him there, and I'm thinking, you know what, he would have been my pick. And you look out there on the field and watch him perform, and I thought, man, what an athlete. He'd be kind of like if you just kind of switch him over and bring him into the spiritual realm. He kind of like being like one of those guys who just was on it. And you look at him there and you think to yourself, boy, you know what, as a pastor, man, I'd like to have a church full of those people. You listen to what I'm going to say. I'd like to have a church full of them. They could sing like Brother Rick, or Brother Greg, or Sister Dawn. They had that ability just to sing. They could teach like Brother Ray, or Brother Garden, or DJ. They had that ability. I want a church full of them. And as the game was going on, there was this guy behind me, and he kept hollering out, "Go TP! Go TP!" And I'm thinking, that's pretty cool. This guy must know him pretty well. Must know him pretty well. But I never even turned around to look. And the game would go, and he would throw, and this one pass that he threw, I mean, I tell you what, even I stood and hollered, I thought it was so good. He threw it to the guy that was going to Notre Dame, and I don't even like Notre Dame, and I even cheered for them. And this guy behind me keeps going, "Go TP! Go TP!" And I'm like, so as the game kind of slowed up, his time was over, he was on the sideline, and another young man was in. I turned around to look to see who this man was. They kept going, "Go TP." And when I looked, it was a man in a wheelchair. Legs shriveled. Tell he hadn't walked in a long time. His body was not 6'6", 245, but I don't know what his height was because he had slumped a little bit. And his back was not straight up from being in his chair so long. And I looked at him and I thought, boy, the love that he has for the game. I bet he wished he could be out there. I turned around and I got to talking to him and I said, boy, you're a big fan of TP or Terrell Pryor. And he said, oh yeah. I said, why is that? I said, you follow him in high school? And he said, no. He said, I followed him in high school, but he said, TP, that's my boy. That's my boy. And you see, the thing is, and he said, you know, I love cheering for my boy. Mikey Boyd got to talk to him. And along as he was there talking to this individual, did he desire to walk? Sure, he desired to walk. Did he have all these desires? And that's what Jesus said there. He said, do you want to walk? And he said, I've got an issue. I'm alone. And nobody is there to pick me up and to put me in. And you know the thing that we look at today is this. We all want the boy that's on the field, but later on when they interviewed this young man of great stature, they said, who has been your role model? Who has been your role model? Who has caused you to want to excel on the field so strong? And you know who it was?